Virgo, the three divine signs that confirm you shouldn't give up on this person. You have a question that Virgos have never asked themselves aloud, not because they're afraid of the answer, because they're afraid the answer will be yes. What if I've already received all the signs and I've chosen not to see them? Not out of distraction. For a much more specific reason, Virgo was built to analyze everything, but was trained very early on to distrust what it feels before the analysis is finished. And the analysis never truly ends, so it retreats, elegantly, with an impeccable narrative about why it's better that way, and the sign, which was there, real, placed by the universe in the exact spot it was looking at, is filed away as noise. This video is about 3 signs that the universe places within Virgo: discomfort, involuntary returns, and the rarest fear she possesses. Each one will sound, upon first listening, like the opposite of confirmation, and that's precisely why Virgo ignores them. If there's someone you can't quite put away, stay here. What comes next might change how you understand your feelings. There's a moment that Virgo knows very well. It's not the moment when they decide to end things. It's the moment before, the one when the internal system has already started working, already cataloging reasons, already building the argument, silently, without announcing it. And the feeling is almost identical to clarity. That's why Virgo, of all the signs, is the one that most confuses protection with wisdom. There's a belief that Virgo carries with almost pride, that she knows when something is no longer worth it, that her analytical ability is a gift, the skill to see what others don't, to perceive patterns before they repeat, to recognize when to leave before the pain reaches its full volume. This sounds like strength, and for a long time, Virgo believed it was. But what no one tells Virgo, and what this video will tell you now, is that the same system that protects her also lies to her, with absurd precision, with impeccable logic, and with a much higher frequency than she imagines. Think of a detective, not the kind of person who investigates to find the truth, the kind who investigates to confirm what has already been decided to be true. He finds evidence, yes, but only the evidence that supports the conclusion the system has already chosen. The rest, discarded, irrelevant, too disturbing to include in the report. Virgo does this to people, not out of malice, for survival. The system was built early, before she had the words to name what she felt, before she knew there was another way. And it operates like this to this day. It collects data, processes risks, generates a verdict, quick, clean, with the appearance of discernment. The problem isn't the system. The problem is that the system doesn't differentiate between real danger and real depth. For it, anything that disrupts is a threat. Anything that isn't safe is suspicious. And genuine connections, the kind that go deep, that stir things up, that don't ask permission, almost never pass the screening. Virgo didn't learn to distrust people. They learned to distrust what they feel for people. And this is where things start to get complicated, because there are signs, not the kind that appear in numerical sequences or convenient coincidences, signs that operate within Virgo, in the silence of the system she never questioned, signs that the universe places precisely where she was trained to ignore, in discomfort, in involuntary returns, in fear that tightens differently. These signs have names in this video. There are 3. And each one will initially sound like the opposite of a positive sign. Because for Virgo, the divine doesn't speak in the language of certainty, it speaks in the language of disturbance. But before we get there, we need to understand why the system was built the way it was. Why Virgo, who is so good at seeing what others don't see, has so much trouble seeing herself when it comes to someone who truly matters. There is a safe, not a metal one, a safe of behavior, built over years, locked from the inside, with a key that was discarded before the conscious Virgo owner could keep it. This safe doesn't protect objects, it protects the capacity to feel without calculating. The vulnerability that Virgo learned very early on was too dangerous to let circulate freely. And the safe works with disturbing efficiency. When someone gets close enough to be real, not superficially real, but profoundly real, the safe closes, not with a bang, not with drama, with an elegant rationalization. It's not the right time. The situation isn't ripe. There are too many variables. Why is it that the same sign that confirms something is real is exactly what makes Virgo want to leave? It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose. It's not a book about astrology in the traditional sense. It's a tool to develop what Virgo needs most and resists having the most, the ability to distinguish what the system says from what instinct feels, to stop in the middle of rationalization and ask, is this discernment or is this fear dressed up as logic? Because Virgo doesn't need more analysis. It already has plenty of analysis. What it needs is clarity about when to stop analyzing and start trusting. You are in that moment right now, still processing, with the question still open, the discomfort still active, and the feeling that perhaps the system has lied to you more times than you realized. This is the exact moment to act, not after the analysis is finished, because it never finishes on its own. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever felt the unease we're describing here? That feeling that someone has taken you out of their head without asking permission and interpreted it as a sign to back away. What happened next? Virgo believes that voice completely because it sounds exactly like the voice of intelligence. But intelligence and fear, when they inhabit the same system, learn to use the same tone. Meanwhile, the universe tries to speak. It always tries. But the universe doesn't send memos. It doesn't organize the evidence chronologically. It doesn't present a coherent and well-structured argument. The universe speaks in symbol, in sensation, in repetition that doesn't make immediate sense. And Virgo, which has been trained to demand coherence from everything, receives this message as noise. It's like receiving a letter written in code and throwing it away because it's unreadable at first glance. The letter existed. The code had a logic, but the system decided, if I don't understand it now, it's useless. How many Virgo cards has she thrown away? And now we come to the first sign, the one that from afar looks like a danger warning, the one that the system immediately interprets as a reason to retreat, the one that in fact is the clearest sign that something genuine is happening, the disturbance. When someone manages to disrupt Virgo's internal system, removing it from their mind in the middle of an important thought, causing analysis to fail, creating a mental presence that doesn't obey the command to exit, that's not a problem, that's a diagnosis. Think of a precision instrument, a seismograph, let's say. It records oscillations. Most of the time the line is almost straight, small variations, nothing significant. But when something big happens, the line goes crazy. Not because the instrument is broken, because the instrument is working exactly as it should. It's detecting something that's too big to ignore. When Virgo is disturbed by someone, when the system that has always kept her under control begins to oscillate without permission, that's the seismograph working. That's the most precise instrument she possesses, saying, something real is here. There is depth here. Here is the kind of connection that the system was built to never allow to happen, because it never knew how to protect her from it. The unease Virgo feels towards this person is not weakness. It's the most honest sign the universe has managed to place within the system without being blocked at the entrance. But the system registers this as a threat, and Virgo retreats. And the question that remains unanswered, the question that still doesn't have an answer now, is If disturbance is a sign of depth, why has Virgo always interpreted this as a reason to leave? A compass doesn't ask permission to point north. It simply points, regardless of where the bearer believes north to be, regardless of how many times he tries to reorient the instrument, argue with the needle, convince himself that he is right and the compass is wrong. The needle returns. It always returns. The second sign that the universe places within Virgo works exactly like this. Virgo returned to that person's thoughts, unintentionally, at moments that make no sense, in the middle of a completely unrelated task, in a conversation with another person, in a silence that should have been neutral but wasn't. The thought appeared. Virgo dismissed it. The thought returned. And then the system kicked in, as it always does. It created a narrative. It's lingering nostalgia. It's habit. It's the brain processing something that was left unfinished. Elegant rationalizations, all with some grain of truth, all equally incomplete. Because none of them answers the real question, why this person specifically? Why not the others? Virgo met other people, had other connections, some simpler, safer, easier to fit into the system. These don't come back as often. These don't appear at the wrong times. These the system filed away without difficulty. But this person, this specific person, the system cannot archive. Virgo interprets this as weakness, as an incomplete process that needs to be finished, as something to be resolved, not listened to. But the instinct doesn't return repeatedly because it's faulty. The instinct returns because it has recognized something that analysis hasn't yet dared to name. There is a difference between obsessive thinking and deep recognition. Obsessive thinking revolves around fear of what might go wrong, of what has already gone wrong, of catalogued failures. Deep recognition has a different texture. It doesn't argue. It doesn't justify, it doesn't defend, it simply returns, with a strange stability, like someone who knows something that hasn't yet been said aloud. When Virgo returns to that person unintentionally, she is not weak. She is being guided by the only system within her that has not been corrupted by the need for control. The compass isn't broken. North exists. And the system you swear you know better than the needle is the same system that threw the cards away without reading them. This compass that returns without asking permission, this involuntary return that Virgo insists on calling weakness, is exactly what the book, The Divine Path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose, addresses with the utmost care. Not to convince Virgo to trust blindly, but so that she learns to distinguish true instinct from anxiety disguised as instinct, so that when the needle points, she knows it's not the compass that's wrong. This discernment between what the system has decided and what instinct recognizes is what separates Virgo from a choice she may regret for years, from a choice that finally makes sense in a way that analysis will never be able to fully explain. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. The third sign is the most unsettling of all, not because it's more intense, but because it's the rarest. Virgo has spent its life learning to protect itself from being hurt. It has developed layers, anticipatory exits, calculated distances. It has become very good at gauging pain before it happens and getting out of the way in time. But with this person, something different happened. With this person, the dominant fear isn't the fear of being hurt. It's the fear of hurting others. Virgo stayed awake, thinking about what she had said that might have sounded wrong. She revised a message before sending it, not because she was protecting herself, she was protecting the other person. She felt that specific contraction in her chest when she realized she might have unintentionally caused some pain. And that kind of fear, the fear that cares, not the fear that runs away, is extraordinarily rare in Virgo's emotional repertoire. Think of an experienced surgeon, someone who has operated hundreds of times, who has a steady hand, who knows the procedure in every detail. This surgeon doesn't tremble. Training has long since absorbed the nervousness. But one day, during a specific operation, the hand hesitates. Not because the surgeon has forgotten how to operate, because this time, at the table, is someone who cares deeply. And the tremor is not a mistake. It's a sign that something sacred is at stake. When Virgo is more afraid of hurting others than of being hurt, something sacred is at stake. The system doesn't generate this kind of fear in just anyone. It's too meticulous for that. It only activates this level of caution when, at some level, that conscious analysis hasn't yet accessed. It already recognizes that this connection has a different weight, a different value, a depth that justifies protection, not of Virgo, but of the other person. And then comes the paralysis. Because that fear is also exposed, because being afraid of hurting someone means admitting that that person matters, that there's something real there that could be lost. And Virgo, who has been trained not to depend on anything that can be taken away, feels the ground shift beneath their feet. How does someone who is afraid of hurting others act? How does Virgo behave when the act of caring requires her to relinquish control? Don't move all at once, never all at once. Virgo doesn't give up on people in an explosion. It gives up methodically. It's one of the most characteristic and invisible things about the sign, the way the distancing happens without ceremony, without announcement, without confrontation. It reduces, first the messages, then the emotional availability, then the hope, silently, like someone extinguishing a candle, not by blowing it out, but by gradually removing the oxygen from the environment. Nobody notices right away. Sometimes even Virgos don't notice. They're convinced they're being reasonable, that you're protecting yourself from something inevitable, that if the pain is going to come anyway, it's better to control it now than to be surprised later. And he constructs a narrative, a good narrative, with arguments, with selected evidence, with an internal logic that holds up. He believes in this narrative with the same conviction with which he believes in anything he has analyzed deeply. And the flame dies out until someone asks, or silence answers, or Virgo, in a moment of honesty she rarely allows herself, looks at the space where something real once was and realizes that she was the one who removed the oxygen. Carefully, competently, with the same efficiency she applies to everything. This candle that goes out without witnesses, this silent method Virgo uses to let go of what perhaps shouldn't have been let go of, has a cost that remains. Not immediately, but it remains. And it is about this cost and about what Virgo does with it that the book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, speaks in a way that few other works address with this depth. Because Virgo doesn't need more post-mortem analysis of relationships. She already does that masterfully, alone, at 3 a.m. What she needs is a path to recognize the signs before extinguishing the flame, before constructing the exit narrative, when there's still time to choose differently. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey toward the clarity and genius you deserve. But sometimes the flame never went out completely. Sometimes Virgo is watching this video with a question still unanswered, with a person's name still present, with the 3 signs described here, the disturbance, the return, the fear of hurting, still active, still recognizable, still disturbingly present. And the question this video leaves us with isn't, is this person worth it? That was never the question. That's the system's question, which needs a clean, binary, archivable answer. The real question is different. It's more difficult, it's more honest, and Virgo, deep down, already knows what it is. Can you handle what is real? Reality isn't perfect. It doesn't pass analysis. It doesn't arrive with all variables resolved and all risks calculated. Reality arrives exactly as this person arrived, disturbing, returning, activating the rarest fear that Virgo possesses. Reality is too big to fit into an equation, not because the equation is wrong, but because the mathematics Virgo learned wasn't designed for that. Virgo was made for reality, not for the simplified, safe, controlled version of life, but for the version that demands everything from it: intelligence and courage, precision and dedication, discernment and faith. It is the sign best positioned to build something genuine because it understands best that every detail matters, that nothing real is built without care, and care, the real kind, the kind that makes the surgeon's hand tremble, is the most divine sign of all. Don't give up on those who make the system oscillate, on those whose compass insists on pointing the way, on those who activate the fear that cares. These three signs are not in the universe out there. They are inside Virgo, waiting for her to learn to read her own language. This is what it means to be a Virgo. It's not the sign of perfection, it's the sign of profound care, of the attention that few can give, of the presence that transforms what it touches when it itself decides to allow itself to be touched. The language of the divine for Virgo was never made of certainties. It was made of disturbances that don't pass, of returns that don't stop, of fears that care. Three signs that the system never wanted to hear and that the heart never forgot.